Okay, so welcome to today's AGP webinar, everyone. Thanks for taking the time in what's a very busy time for everyone at the moment. Apologies to those of you that have already been on the other webinars this week and have probably heard this a couple of times, but for anyone that's new, I'm just going to go through a few of the housekeeping rules. So my name's Lucy Jones. I'm the AGP Project and Compliance Manager. I'm just going to be here to help facilitate the session with Nick today, and I'll pass over to him shortly. So if everyone can ensure that your microphones are muted, just to avoid any interference or background noise whilst Nick's speaking, there'll be a Q&A session later on. So obviously at that point you can turn your microphone back on, or if you prefer, you can ask the questions on the chat facility, and then Nick will try and answer as many as possible. And then any that we've missed, we can come back to, or we can send out answers to everyone following the session. So just to let you know, the webinar is being recorded. Again, this just helps us collect those questions, comments, and if anyone's got any questions or concerns about the recording, just let me know. So following on from the webinar, you will receive 2 emails, one of which is a link to HelloSign, which is our e-signature platform. So that just requires you to sign digitally just to confirm that you were here. It means we can confirm to Welsh Government the webinar took place and how many AGP clients attended. So it's really important for us to get those signatures. If you could just take the time to do that, that would be much appreciated. You'll also receive an email with a link to a couple of surveys to provide feedback. This just, again, helps us to make sure that we're delivering the right content. And if you've got any suggestions for what your current needs are, then we can have a look at those. So if you need any support during this webinar, just pop something on the chat and I'll be monitoring that throughout. So I think that's it from me. I'll hand over to Nick for the webinar.
Great, thanks Lucy. Good morning everybody. Welcome to this webinar on supply chain management in these COVID-19 times. The plan for the session is that we'll have a presentation on the supply chain issues that we're facing, and an approach that you may want to adopt in your organization. Moving on to a discussion which will be your opportunity to have input and to raise your issues that you're facing. And then we'll go into a more formal question and answer session. The webinar will be closed with some additional support that to highlight some additional support that AGP is able to offer. So without any more ado, I'll make a start. And can everybody see the slides? I guess if you can't, perhaps you'll say. Okay. So the plan this morning is to have some introductions in terms of the program. We'll talk about adapting your supply chain and what should we expect, through to how you may want to assess your supply chain risk and gain as much visibility of your supply chain as possible. A couple of slides on inventory management and the sorts of things that you might want to consider regarding your inventory, and the focus on maybe rescheduling your production. Through to sourcing and collaboration. The sourcing and collaboration, the collaboration with others and networking will be a discussion, and then we'll look at individual feedback, and as I said, questions and answers, and the one-to-one consultation, and contact information should you need any future support. So this is just a slide on the Accelerator Program. This is the program that Winning Pitch and Impact Innovation deliver on behalf of the Welsh Government. As I said, thank you for taking your time to attend this webinar. We have created this program this week and learning as we deliver. So any feedback would be really appreciated. So as at the end of the seminar, you'll receive 2 emails. One is the digital registration form, which is what Lucy mentioned, and the second is a follow-up to the 2 surveys. Okay, so let's get into the supply chain. What should we expect? Well, what we should expect in the near and long term going forward: shortages of raw materials and components. I'm sure some of you are facing this already. Temporary closures of ports, and a worldwide shortage of some products. Shifts in demand patterns. Already consumers in the worldwide are curtailing their purchasing, and there's a lot of uncertainty during the COVID-19 time. So this is why we should adapt. So looking at your supply chains, here's a particular model that you may want to consider. This is basically taking a risk assessment of your supply chain. Initially, maybe some form of health check, either through talking to your suppliers or an internal health check on the critical supplies that you need for your business to continue. Identifying the high risk areas, and then maybe coming up with a dashboard to help identify the most critical things that need to be worked on first. Or you could use a risk management matrix. I'm sure some of you have come across FMEA, failure mode effect analysis. This risk management matrix is a means of looking at each of your supply risks and scoring them to identify which are the high risk items. So deal with the highest risk scores first. Excuse me. Examine the high risk direct supplies first. Identify the company's key direct suppliers and understand their ability to meet supply requirements and potential risks. Work with the supplier to get visibility of inventory, production and purchase order fulfillment status. Understand how you will be treated from an allocation perspective in the event of shortages. And active communication and formulating alternative options will be critical to minimizing the supply chain impact on your company. Gain as much visibility of your supply chain as possible. Often there's an extended supply chain of more than 2 suppliers. Where possible, develop a picture of the whole supply chain. You may be able to buy a component or sub-assembly that you can use to complete the product in-house. Gain visibility of critical component supplies as soon as possible. Inventory management. Quickly refine your stock levels and gain additional stock holding. Review your stock levels for all available materials. Review your safety stock. These will have been calculated on a historical basis and the assumptions may no longer apply. Secure additional strategic stock. Consider your inbound logistics. It may be that you have some additional stock from your Brexit planning. Keep these in place. Gain visibility of the supplier status of your inventory at the supplier location, what their production schedules look like, and the supplier shipment status to help you predict supplier shortages and be able to react accordingly. The better the visibility of the supply chain, the quicker you can react to the changes. Focus on production rescheduling. Prioritize the products that will produce, you will produce in the event of raw material shortages. The key thing here is don't use components on lower priority products. So readjust your schedules based on the materials in an inventory, and make sure that you're able to complete all the assemblies that go in and that you're able to complete a finished product. Consumer channel shifts are causing last minute delivery service capacity shortages. What I mean by that is that one particular fact is 55 million meals a day were purchased from restaurants and cafes. That 55 million meals are now being funneled through our supermarket chains. So the consumer shifts are causing this last mile delivery service shortages. So the key thing is we must have the information in response to COVID-19. The immediate focus for most companies needs to be on improving visibility to supply chain risks in your facilities, in your direct suppliers and beyond. If you don't have visibility into the potential supply chain problems across your end-to-end supply chain, then you can't adequately protect or manage them. This is a key quote from one of the Deloitte supply chain experts. So let's think about sourcing alternative suppliers. Where multiple sources have already been established, it's important to activate the second supplier relationship and gain additional inventory and capacity. Bring them on stream. Maybe establishing shared resource pools for raw materials inventory. This has been used to good effect in China at times of crisis. And alternative sourcing supplies in other parts of the world where subsidiaries have been set up. Or alternatively, localization. Look closer to home for alternatives in Wales or the UK. So, collaborating and networking with others. How can we collaborate? How do we know what's out there? What information exchange process is there? And how can we develop a central resource database? I'd like to now move this into a discussion. Let me just go to the next. So I've shared some of the research out there, but what I'd like to know is, tell me about your issues and the challenges that you're facing in this COVID world. So I'll stop the, so that's a question for you guys. Would somebody like to start the discussion?
Nick, it's Andrew Beer here. One of the things that in consideration is the work in progress, the log jam, if you like, of significant works finished, but unable to ship from premises. Ultimately, 2 tiers up, that becomes a national utility company. And I just wonder whether there's any thoughts from anybody really, whether those companies would be encouraged to at least contribute, if you like, or part pay work in progress with evidence proven and vested in interest sort of considerations.
So are you saying that that you have some customers who are utility companies and you've produced product for them?
Yeah, it's not directly with utilities, but it's 1 tier down from that. So ultimately, the utility companies call themselves essential services, and then our customer calls themselves essential suppliers, which they are, but it not necessarily as essential works. So we've had COVID-19 cases very close to home, so we had to close down on Tuesday, and then consequently, then there's significant work in progress out there, just a few days away from being completed, ironically.
Yes. So has anybody got any experience of that? I'll take the silence.
Yeah. So, sorry, Mick, I was unmuting. We're facing a very similar challenge at the moment, in that we're very close to declaring closure ourselves. I'm thinking of how do we manage goods inwards, because it's likely we'll have carriers turn up and to find locked gates. Similarly, we don't do supply essential services, so we have to be on standby irrespective in case there is an issue which we have to respond to. So it's very difficult. I don't have an answer. We're almost sort of just taking it on the fly.
Yeah, I was having a discussion earlier about what stock should we have in place in terms of, obviously cash flow is key, and so we don't want to be stocking our businesses up to the gunnels. However, we do want to have the strategic stock in place for when we start back up. And so my slide on looking at your forecasting and identifying what products you're planning to make, and ensuring that that there's the inventory in place for that, is probably the best that can be done. So in terms of answering your question, Myrig, I think the materials that are coming into your business are key to have somebody there who's able to receive them, albeit that the premises will be shut. But have you thought of talking to your logistics suppliers and getting time deliveries?
It's a meeting we need internally. Because the other challenge we've got is we don't have a production line. You respond to, we're in marine industry. You know, if a vessel breaks, it could be any one of 4,000 components. We're not in a position to stock every component for every possible boat on the seas. We do a high degree of what I call scrapyard challenge. What have we got? We can fix it with. So it's I think it's just being as imaginative and as responsive as we can be, given the unusual constraints we have. But the other thing, if anyone else is seeing this,
just
want evidence.
Andrew Beers.
Sorry.
No, go on, Myrick.
Okay. If anyone else is seeing this, I had one supplier yesterday totally change their terms of trade on me. We had a 60-day account, and all of a sudden they want payment before delivery. So we're having to manage that as well. You can understand their point of view.
Yeah.
We're all facing the same pressures, but it is a domino effect from this, obviously.
So I guess that you'd look at your schedules and look at the criticality of that component and decide, do you need it, and do you need it straight?
Absolutely.
Away.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unusual circumstances.
Yeah. Coming back to Andrew's question regarding part payment, again, negotiating a schedule of payments, is that something which your customers would consider?
Yeah, I think there's a one-off is possible, Nick. I'm just thinking there's probably hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds worth of liquidity sitting in supply chains that, if something was put in place at national level or Welsh government level, and that could be released rather than looking for loan facilities, just work in progress, capital released.
Okay, I've made a note of that.
Yeah.
At national level. Okay,
Nick,
so the wider. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, Nick. Just picking up a point, and I've already made this point through the Chamber of Trade. This Sybil's loan scheme is ineffective. I've been told it's possibly 2 months as a lead time to get the loan approved. And a number of banks as well are demanding personal guarantees from directors. So we're not even going there. It's not going to deliver what we need in the timescale we need it in. So we're just working it best we can with other resource.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Moira. Any other comments from any other questions from the wider audience? How are you coping? What is your situation at the moment? Okay, I'm not getting any response, so we'll move on with the presentation. So one of the key things that I think you can do in your organizations is develop your own action plan to address your supply chain issues. You've seen the model, but I think the key thing is assessing your risks and dealing with the biggest ones first. So available to you is some one-to-one sessions from myself at the AGP, and we're running another webinar event on the 2nd of April. So have we, shall I turn the webinar over to more questions and answers? Let me just. So do we have any questions from on the floor? Okay, before we close the webinar, it would be very useful for each of the attendees just to say something in terms of what their particular issues are. So, Jean, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, thank you. It's very interesting discussion for me as going through a new startup, working with Andy, and with my Institute of Directors hat on as well. The comments about the banks and the millions of pounds held up in the supply chain, I can certainly feed back through our Institute of members in order to get that in front of government, as I will no doubt expect you to do as well. But in terms of the supply chain, as my business is setting up an entirely new method of managing the tender and procurement market, it's interesting to learn how people are scurrying around at the moment to find alternative suppliers. And if we had a quicker and easier way of managing that supply chain and a quicker and easier way of businesses getting access to that information very, very quickly, then I think it would facilitate some of the experiences that we're finding at the moment. So what we're doing is taking the opportunity to speak to the people who we have been engaging with in terms of our workshops and working through this as a learning opportunity in order to refine the system that we're putting into place for future procurement.
Yeah.
But I don't envy at all the task that the businesses that have just been talking have in front of them. And I think where those instances of having to close down when you have work in progress, that is something that certainly should be taken up with Welsh Government, because I think there is an opportunity there for something to be done about that. But thank you so much for the information. It's been really useful for me. And we look forward, obviously, to engaging all the businesses you've just chatted about as soon as we launch.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jean. And yeah, I will take Andrew's point and raise that back at Winning Pitch, and we'll channel that back. Yeah, thank you for that, Jean. Gary, George, any comments from yourself?
As you know, Nick, I work with Andrew, and basically he's already asked a few of the questions that we had in mind. The webinar has just made me think differently about the startup, really, when we get back into work, because we closed down last Tuesday. And
yeah, I think it's about identifying the little components that you need in your business to start up. And it's not a case of needing everything, because obviously cash is, you don't want to tie up your stock, your cash with a load of stock that you might not be using. So a focused production plan on products that you're wanting to produce, but also making sure that you're able to complete to the finished goods that can be shipped is again key. And the process that I've shared with you helps identify the key steps. Great, thanks for that, Gary. Mark, how about what organisation are you from, and what thoughts have you got? Is that Mark Richards from Qualitech as well, is it? Hi, Mark. Can you speak? Okay, let's move on. Alan, what are the issues that you're facing in your organization?
Hi, Nick. It's Andrew here. Aaron's had to leave his desk, I'm afraid.
Oh, right. Okay. So who's that speaking?
This is Andrew from Ultrawave.
Oh, right. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hi. We're fine, thank you. We've still got a skeleton staff in at the moment, trying to prioritise medical and life sciences work. But we, like everybody else, are seeing the effects of limited supply chain, particularly on the things that we use that are used also in the medical industries. So that is being diverted, rightly so, to the NHS and the front line. So that's the thing that's going to stop our production, I feel. But everything else, I empathise with Nick. The fact of building up stocks, we're doing it slightly different. We're actually building stocks for medical and life sciences that we have orders for at the moment, so we can get them out away from here. And obviously, they should be useful, but it'll keep some cash rolling in for the business as well.
Yeah, good.
Quite concerned about our people as well, making sure that we don't keep them longer than we have to, because that's a risk for them and their families.
Yeah, yeah. So are you finding that you've got components to be able to finish your products?
Everything that we're doing, we've got a full bill of materials for. We have some things that we haven't got full bills of materials for, and Aaron is actually chasing around to find people who will deliver those. If we can't, then we strike them off the list of production.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's no point in tying up components on something you can't complete.
Correct. Yeah. Cash is the overriding driver here.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for your comments.
No problem.
Richard Morris.
Cheers.
Hi, Nick. It's Richard. I've just joined, actually, just from the AGP program, just to listen in. So just interested in people's questions and issues. So thanks very much, and carry on.
Great. Okay, thanks, Richard. I didn't realise it was you. Great. Hannah Saunders, what are your thoughts?
Hiya. I'm So I'm Hannah. I run a skincare business, which includes a hand gel. And luckily, just before this all kicked off, we'd over-ordered just because our supply chain is very complicated and we've got some long lead times. We decided to jump ahead. So we're doing okay, actually, in terms of supply chain right now. My question's a bit different in that I'm not overly happy with my manufacturer, but when I've tried to source different UK manufacturers, and it does need to be UK because that's part of our brand, I've really struggled to find skincare factories specifically, so people that make soaps, sun creams and hand gels, they're our best sellers. I've really struggled to find ones that are interested in our business, to be honest. We've got quite high MOQs and we always pay on time. You know, we've got excellent references, and I really don't want to go abroad. I really don't want to go to China, although it would be a lot easier in many respects. So my question is there a database? Is there a point of contact? Is there somewhere where I could see or get the information for a consolidated list of manufacturers who I could approach?
I know somebody in South Wales who where based?
So we're Wrexham based.
Oh, right. Okay. I know somebody in South Wales who may be able to help you. So let's take that offline and have a discussion. Perhaps you could make a note of my email address and my number, and we can have a conversation about that. But
okay, that'd be great.
there are certainly a number of Welsh-based companies that might be able to help you. Great, thanks for that, Hannah. Nicola Garnish.
Hi, Nick. I'm not sure if you can hear me okay. Can you?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, for us, we're reliant on couriers to collect and deliver our consignments. And it's just a daily battle for us to ensure that we've got the required amount of Arctics, because they've got drivers that are going off on self-isolating at the moment, as we can respect. And so for us, we're totally reliant on, you know, our consignments, thankfully, compared to some, are still going out well. It's just us being able to get the right amount of Arctics in to collect those consignments, and obviously the restricted rules now that go with that.
Yeah, and so what is it you make?
We supply lawnmowers, generators, compressors all across the UK and Ireland. So we were fortunate that we called in all of our stock off the port earlier than normal before the Chinese New Year.
Oh, well done.
So that was really fortunate for us as a business. But we are at a point now where, you know, and it's a fortunate thing. You know, I can only sympathise and empathise with the people that are really struggling at the minute. But so far we're okay. It's just now we've got the concerns, and we've got a lot of our team home working, so a different way of working for us. And you know, we've got considerations around whether we have to shut down due to just the safety of our team that's left in the building, which isn't many now, to be honest. But
yeah,
that's where we're at. We've got a warehouse, distribution centre plus offices, so just a very different way of working.
Yeah. So what plans have you got in place for after COVID to get your supplies in?
I've got to do a risk management matrix, as we spoke about earlier on in the webinar, just around some of our product is still a manufacturer in China for the second wave of because as you can appreciate, most of our product goes out during the next few months at our busiest times of the year. So we've just got to make sure that we've got the right plan now for the second wave of stock to come in, because there's a delay of product.
Good. Okay. So you found the risk management matrix of help?
Yeah, certainly they help. We've got product port and we've got product still in China, so we just need to make sure that, you know, we stay in touch and stay up to date with our forwarders to make sure our product lands in the UK at the times that they've specified.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much, Nicola. Rosalie Macmillan.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, fine.
Hi, this is Rosalie. I run a business.
Thanks, Rosalie.
Smile Plastics, recycling plastics into sort of artisan decorative panels. We're a really, really small team of kind of office staff are now working from home, but the factory is still open, functioning. We have about 8 people on the factory floor manufacturing at the moment, and I suppose we were in quite a good position pre-COVID because we had a huge backlog of orders that we're still busily trying to get through. But given that we're supplying a lot of interior designers, architects in the hospitality and retail sectors, we're going to see it massively declining in the next demand massively declining in the next few months. So for us, it's a question of dealing with the unknown challenges with that, and knowing how much raw material to stockpile at this point in time without, while still managing cash flow. And I thought it was a really interesting point that you made earlier, Nick, about really kind of doing a full kind of assessment on your kind of product mix, and maybe focusing on, for us, obviously focusing on the products where we have the highest margins, but also potentially using the least amount of raw materials for what we need to make, just so that we can conserve our raw materials as much as possible, without really knowing what the market is going to be looking like in sort of 3 to 6 months time. So we're going to need to go away and do the risk matrices that you've recommended and come up with an action plan. But all in, I think we're in a as strong a position as we could be, given the circumstances.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay, thanks, Rosalie, and I'm glad you found that part of the presentation useful.
Mm-hmm.
So have I missed anybody else? Anybody else there who wants to give some feedback or ask a question?
Nick, it's Jean. One of the bits of feedback that I'd like to give, and I've no doubt Andy will be expecting this from me, but I think these sessions are invaluable because it does give individuals a simple and easy way to look at things in sort of managing the business through. But for me, it's been a reinforcement that actually our business is on the right track, because we are looking to bring buyers and sellers together, and never more if we had a robust database that was a simple database and we kept buyers and sellers together on a simple platform. Yeah. Then this would facilitate a lot of the angst that people are finding in having to search and research for alternative suppliers or people in their supply chain. So thank you for that, because it's although we haven't started, we know we're on the right lines.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks for that, Jean. As I showed you on one of the slides, there are free one-to-one sessions are available to you, and I've put aside next Monday and Tuesday for those sessions, and the suggestion is that maybe you can book a slot of an hour session. Quite happy to go through the matrix with you, or to look at the front end risks of your business, and we can do that through Zoom, a Zoom meeting early next week. So what I'll do is I'll just put up the last slides so that you can see. You can get the information. So there are my contact details. I'm proposing some diary dates for the one-to-one sessions on the Monday the 30th and Tuesday the 31st. Yeah, just checking my diary. And if you'd like to book those sessions, then you can get hold of me on my mobile or on my email address, which I'm showing now. This presentation, it will be available through Winning Pitch. Lucy, are you still there?
Yes, I am, yeah.
How can the delegates access this presentation?
Yeah, so we'll send this through to them. So once they've signed, once they've received the registration form and we get that back and signed, we'll then send a quick note to say, that we received that, and we'll send the slides out then. Great,
thanks, Lucy. So the last two slides are really, in summary, we need you to sign the registration form. As Lucy just said, you'll get a copy of the slides, and you'll then be sent an email with 2 links, for one with a feedback form and the other with a survey. And as I've just said, you can book a slot with myself, either using the phone or the email, and we can get our heads together. The last slide here really is, if you're really facing some fundamental risks to the survival of your business and need to act, you obviously need to act quickly. There is some additional confidential independent support from AGP, from the restructuring team. You may find, if you're in that difficult situation, that please contact your RM, who will be able to direct you towards that support. So that brings our close. Thank you very much for your attendance. I really appreciate your comments. We managed the technology, so well done, everybody. I know it's quite a challenge. But yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate your attendance, and please share with other members of your team or other businesses that the webinar is, the next supply chain webinar is next week on the 2nd of April at 9:30. Please register through the usual channels. Any last comments from you, Lucy?
Oh, sorry. No, nothing else from me. Just again, just to say thank you to everyone for attending, and also thank you to Nick for presenting. We've had some good feedback so far in the chat, so hopefully everyone found it useful. And yeah, as Nick said, get in touch with your relationship manager if you need any further AGP support.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much indeed. And stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Nick. Thank you.